So, if you have food intolerances, then this episode is for you. Tune in to discover how Chris went from pretty much avoiding cooking his whole life to actually enjoying cooking and feeling the freedom to cater for his changing dietary restrictions. Okay, so welcome, Chris, to Joyful Eating. So, let's just cast your mind back before you started working with me. So, what was your relationship with cooking? And you have some dietary restrictions like before you joined.
Yeah, so it's always been an interesting challenge because I haven't done dairy or garlic or onions for probably 25 years now.
Really?
Yeah. And then probably about 10 years ago, beef became a problem. So beef and almonds dropped out about the same time. And
Right.
I never grew up cooking. I had parents that cooked, and so food was provided, and then, when my wife joined my life, I was in school full time, and she joined my life, so she did most of the cooking.
Right,
Then
right.
we
So
got married and had kids and decided somebody had to stay home, and that fell to her in our case.
yeah,
And I worked. So again, I didn't really cook. I was what I called a subsistence level cook. There were a few things I could cook, a couple of casseroles. I could, throw something on the grill and get it to the point that it's safe to eat. But it certainly was just very, very, very basic kind of cooking, just as basic as it could possibly be.
right, right.
And salt and pepper were about as far as I went with any kind of seasoning, and basically if I had to cook I would, but I really tried really hard to avoid it.
Right. And you set up your life quite well so that you could. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so
And so
but
tell me about the dietary restrictions. So is it like a gut reaction for you that happens with those things?
yeah, so I did a food sensitivity profile in my 20s,
Right.
and so found out a lot of things that I was reactive to, and so it's kind of like a trigger load, and if I go over the trigger load, it's 4 days of stomach cramps and lower GI issues and feeling absolutely miserable.
Yeah, yeah. My husband has GI reactions to garlic and onions too, and it's yeah, it's a lot. It's
It,
intense, isn't it?
it's really intense, and it's funny because I meet people and they're like, "Oh my gosh, how do you not do, garlic, for example?" And I'm like, when my end result is 4 days of misery, it's pretty easy to avoid it,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right.
you know?
So yeah. Yeah. So what concerns did you have about your ability to get the most out of joyful cooking, Chris?
Really, I'm not a cook. So, like, when I've tried here and there, as we empty nested and my wife, her career took off and she started working full time, I had to start doing more cooking. So I'd pick up a recipe book and I'd inevitably find something in it that's like, I don't the one that sticks out in my head, which seems silly now, but at the time was, fold something into the batter. And I'm going, what the heck? How do you fold something that's not a,
That's
a
not a
solid?
sheet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how to do this, and so I was forever running into things that I didn't know how to do because I hadn't ever really cooked.
Right.
And so it was always super stressful trying to figure out a menu, trying to figure out what we're gonna cook, trying to make sure we get everything at the store, and then try to find the recipes and stumble through the recipes and produce something that's edible on the other end. That was just a super challenge for me. It was super stressful because I work full time too. So I'd come home and I'm struggling through trying to get dinner on and do everything else. And it was no fun, but we were getting it done.
Yeah, right, right. So, like, I guess, so was your concern that, okay, like, there's something wrong with me, I'm not going to be able to learn to cook without
Not
recipes?
not so much
Or,
that, just more like I'm not a cook, so where are we starting from? Am I
right.
expected to have a certain base knowledge that I flat out don't have? Because I've had those moments with my wife. I love her to pieces, and we've been together for 27 years now, married. So I mean, we've been together for a long time, but still, I remember some of those where I'm like the fold example. I said, "How the heck do you fold something in?" And she's looking at me like I'm an idiot. And
Yeah,
so I'm
right.
going, is that what I'm going to run into when I decide to take a cooking class? Because I don't even have a base knowledge to work from.
Right. So that was what you were worried about.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so fast forward to actually being joyful cooking. So did you how did that play out for you?
Oh, it played out beautifully. It played out beautifully. The mindset pieces were huge for me because I started thinking about it differently. And then I started with the 21-day challenge.
That's right.
And I saw right away with the 21-day challenge that there was enough flexibility in what you were offering us, not only in helping the mindset, but that I can actually adjust this to what I need for food. Because that was probably the other concern, because I see that in recipes all the time. I'm going through a recipe and I'm like, oh, you want half of an onion and 3 cloves of garlic? It's like, okay, that recipe's out, or I don't know how to work around it. Either way, it doesn't matter. So, so immediately when I got into your stuff, even in the 21-day challenge, it was, oh, I can actually make this work. I don't eat mayonnaise because of dietary restrictions, for example, but I can easily find something else to fill that spot.
Yeah, great, great, great.
And
And
so
from
it,
a
it gave me a ton of flexibility to work with, which was super helpful.
yeah, amazing. And did you feel like that you were there any moments where you did have that were there any moments where you had a folding something through experience where you didn't understand what was going on?
No,
Right.
no,
So
not
even
at
with
all.
like no baseline knowledge, you were fine to
Yeah, I was absolutely fine with no baseline knowledge, just to jump in. And part of it was really defining for me, I think, what is cooking.
right. Tell me more of that.
So for me, cooking was my dad, for example, especially as he's retired, has really gotten into cooking, does cooking classes, does very, very chefy kind of things, very
Elaborate.
complicated, million ingredients, takes hours to prep and cook and do all of that. And I'm going, that doesn't fit in my life. And
Yeah.
so, that was always, I lost my train of thought. Well, yeah. So that's what I was so I started to think when I was originally thinking I had to like go with a recipe and produce this complicated meal and do something that took a long time to do. And cooking
Yeah. And
started
so
to shift to me that it can be as simple as I have some leftover chicken in the fridge and I can throw some salad makings in a bowl and add chicken and dressing and I've got dinner. That's cooking.
that's still cooking, yeah. And it's just as valid as my dad's like who spent like 3 years
Yeah.
growing his chicken and yeah.
Exactly. It's equally valid. I mean, even into cooking, but whatever, but it became that it doesn't have to be this complex, difficult thing. It can be something that I can tailor to my life and something that I can wrap my brain around and do in a way that makes sense for me and that is still cooking. It just doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah, amazing.
It can be
Yeah.
easy, to borrow
It's
one of your words. It can be easy, and I like that.
it's okay for it to be easy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But that was a big turning point for me that it is okay for it to be easy, that it does count as a meal.
Yeah, isn't that funny that we have these things in our like these definitions of what constitutes cooking? Like,
Yeah,
and I've actually had people say to me, "That's not cooking," and I'm like, "Who cares? Am I getting a meal out of it that I'm happy with?" Like,
exactly.
you go along with your rules. Yeah, funny.
Yeah.
So so before you joined the challenge, Chris, what tipped you over from like thinking about doing the challenge to actually deciding to sign up for it?
So it really was in the challenge. It was just deciding that this is something that I can actually do. Like I jumped into the challenge because I was like, well, I can at least see for 3 weeks, I can at least see if this is going to be something I can work with. Or is this something that's going to be way beyond my like that fear of that lack of base level knowledge, or is it something that is going to be accessible?
Yeah, right.
And so getting through the 3 week challenge, I said this is completely accessible and I want to go further. And so it was all of that. It was jumping into that and saying I'm going to be brave enough to do it because me cooking isn't going to go away. So
Right.
let's continue to get better at it rather than just, say, oh, well, okay, honey, I'm cooking, but every night is a salad with some leftover meat on it. What
Yeah,
other
amazing.
frameworks, what other ideas are out there? Because that whole thought process works well for me with the technical kind of brain. Thinking of a framework works well for me. Plug in the various components I want to plug in, and away I roll.
Yeah, great, great, great. Um, okay, so how has joyful cooking changed the way you feel about yourself and you, like feeding yourself?
I feel like I can say I'm a cook,
Amazing.
and and I've gotten to be so much more confident in just trying stuff. Like, oh, I have this crazy idea that might work. Let me try that and see how that works out.
Right, right. So
Um,
you're not afraid to give it a go.
no, not at all. I mean, a simple example I can think of is your sauce sorcery
Oh, yeah.
lesson. So I took that idea, and I find that I'm fairly sensitive to vinegar, so I was not really wanting to play in that realm, but I took the idea and took tomato paste and water and some spices and some liquid smoke and came up with like a sloppy Joe sauce, barbecue sauce kind of a thing. So it was taking that idea, but I took a leap sideways because I said, I think this sounds good, so I'm going to give this a try and see what happens.
Yeah, amazing. So you created your own framework for a barbecue sauce that doesn't have onions and garlic. Yeah,
Correct.
amazing.
Yeah, it was using plain old tomato paste and water and then smoked paprika and a little chili powder and some salt and pepper and a little bit of liquid smoke.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so,
amazing.
but it was taking that idea and saying, this is a framework I can work with to get me unstuck and just run with it and try different things. And so I've gotten much more brave in just playing with it and trying it and working with it and just seeing what happens and even adjusting as I go. There's been some interesting things that didn't work so well that were lessons that I learned, but that's okay with me too. I don't mind that.
Right. So that's another thing is like when something doesn't work out so great, you're not like going, "Oh, I give up. I'm not going to cook anymore. I'm not a cook anymore." Like you're not seeing it as this like attack on your identity as a cook.
Absolutely not. But then I've always been an iterative person. So I tend to be one that does something and says, okay, that went okay, or that didn't go like I planned, but how can I make it better the next time I try that?
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so you already
That's
had that.
been that's been a lot of my life, and that's how I built a lot of my skills is just by doing that and saying it's not a, oh, I'm a terrible person and I'm lousy because I that didn't work. It's that didn't work. What do I need to change?
Yeah. Yeah,
You
amazing.
know?
Amazing. So that's great that you already had that. But that's something that we teach as well. It's like because
Yeah.
so many people come in and they're like, particularly if they're not confident cooks, they're like afraid to fail. So they're afraid to get
Yeah.
it wrong. Yeah. So that's great that you already had that, Chris. And yeah, like what are you noticing in terms of like your changes with your dietary restrictions? Like how's that feeling? Is it what's different there now?
We have a lot more flavor because I'm now playing with a lot more different things, and so we're playing with different ideas and working with different things. And my wife would have described anything I cooked before joyful cooking as the most boring and bland thing she'd ever eaten. She would eat it, but she's going, "Oh my gosh, this is so bland and so boring," because
She
it's like,
she's like, maybe I should quit my job and go back
yeah,
to
because it'd be like, baked chicken breast with a little salt and pepper, and be like, "There's dinner, enjoy," and she's going, "Oh gosh." So, it's that's been the thing is I'm really enjoying cooking, and I have fun when I get ideas and get spurred by ideas and take off with ideas, and then but there's more flavor involved, and there's also the thing I love about joyful cooking is that there's the freedom to say, "Oh, you'd like a little bit more heat. Okay, why don't like I brought some chili crisp oil to the table so you can add more of that to add some extra heat if you want some more heat, but we'll dial it back to where it isn't so hot or if I want more heat." So it's that freedom to say it doesn't have to be exactly what I cooked. If you feel like you want to add mustard or something else to it, I'm not bothered. Go right ahead.
Yeah, amazing. So your wife's having like a better experience of her
Oh yeah.
meals. Yeah, and you're having that
Yeah.
ability to adjust at the table. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the same time, she's been amazing too because for a long time that was our agreement when she was cooking because she's always struggled with presentation.
Right.
And so our agreement was always that I will try it almost no matter what it looks like. It's like, it may
Yeah,
look awful, but it frequently tasted good, but, it was one of those that's like, I will almost always try it, and so that's been the same thing as I've gone through this. She's like, "I will always try it."
amazing.
And she
Okay, so you've had that good partnership going.
Yeah, yeah, and she's also willing to talk to me, so if we try it and we're like, "Oh, that didn't work out quite like we thought," we'll brainstorm off of each other and say, "What could we adjust next time?" So maybe 'cause since she's done a lot more cooking than me, then how can we work together? It's not a, "You suck, this is how you fix it." It's a, "Here's an idea that you could try if you wanted to play with it, to try something different with it that might produce a different result." "Oh, okay, cool." That's the
Yeah,
stealing
great.
with pride, the community kind of a thing that I've had in the circle community too that I've really enjoyed is, "I don't know what to do with this, somebody help." "Oh, well, try this." "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah, great, great. So you're learning from your wife and you're also learning from the group as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great, Chris. And so do you feel like now that you have this ability to cook without recipes that that your dietary restrictions are still like difficult to manage?
They're always difficult to manage just from the standpoint that unless I cook it, I'm probably gonna run into a problem somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm like any normal human being. I work full time, I have hobbies, I have other things going. So it's, eating out is always a problem. But this has made it to where most of the time I cook at home and it's just not that big of a deal. This is, some nights I don't even know what I'm going to cook. It's just like, is it chicken or is it pork or is it turkey or is it fish? Which one of the four is it tonight? Okay, I'm going to get that out. 'Cause I just try to keep them in rotation, 'cause otherwise it's easy to just keep eating chicken 4 nights in a row, so we just not a strict rotation, but, we try to keep it
You're
not be the
mixing
same
things up.
thing every
Yeah.
night,
Yeah.
but get that out and then be like, "Okay, well, that's defrosting, what in the heck am I gonna do with it tonight?" But sometimes it's just I'm gonna throw it in the slow cooker with some spices that sound good, and we'll try that and see what happens. We've had some really good ones that came out that way. I did some sautéed mushrooms and kale with some togarashi, and that was just amazing.
Yum. Yum.
Yeah, but that was just one of those that was just a random, "Oh, we have mushrooms we need to use up, and we still have kale," and there might have been some potatoes in that one too, I can't remember now, but, but it was just one of those, it's like, I'm just looking through the spice cupboard going, "What do we have?" "Well, let's see, some smoked paprika, I like this togarashi, let's add some of that," and so we just kept playing with it and got it somewhere.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So and you're using what you have as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you're not wasting as much food.
Not
Yeah.
wasting nearly as much food because that was probably the other thing, we wasted a lot of food because, our kids are in their 20s now, but we were used to planning and cooking for 4
For four
people,
people, right, right.
and then they all moved out. Now it's just my wife and I, which has been great, it's been an adjustment, but it's been great empty nesting, but it's been a real change where you're suddenly having to cook less and going, "Oh, yeah, I cook a whole pack of chicken, I have a lot of chicken left over, what am I gonna do with that?"
With it. Yeah, and so now you're able to use it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, the investment cooking idea has really paid off at different times and places. Sometimes I do more of it, sometimes less of it, but yeah, we definitely use stuff up more, and sometimes it even changes how I approach cooking it because I will do some of it maybe with just salt and pepper and the rest of it with some other spices, and that way I have something that's a little more basic that then I can jazz up when I want to do something different with it.
Yeah, so when it's time to serve, you can adjust and add
Yeah,
the extra flavor at the end then. Yeah. Amazing, Chris.
yeah.
And so, like, was there anything that surprised you, or what surprised you the most about joyful cooking?
I think what surprised me the most is I found that I actually like to cook.
I know, crazy, hey.
Yeah, I mean, before joyful cooking, I would have said I was a reluctant cook that did it because I had to, because otherwise dinner's going to be at 8 o'clock every night, and we've got evening activities or things to go to. So it's like, okay, I'm going to cook, but I was reluctant, but I would do it and I didn't enjoy it. And
Right.
I started finding that, oh, I actually can have fun thinking about this, coming up with ideas. I can actually have fun cooking. I can drive my wife crazy because I rearrange the kitchen because I want to work a different way than she does. But I'm like, I'm doing most of the cooking, so it's going to go the way I want to work.
What
Thank
a-
you very much, But it's just not, she's not so bad about that. It's just more of a like, where the heck did this thing get moved? Oh, sorry, that's over in that cupboard. Oh, okay, good. And
Yeah,
so
I think.
so it was that kind of stuff. But the surprise was that I actually found that I enjoy cooking, that I have fun with it when I have the time to think about it and get inspired by an idea and run with an idea and do it.
Yeah, great, great. And so it's not this like chore of like, oh my, I've got to like make dinner. It's like, oh, actually, this is fun time for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be. And some nights it's just a chore, but it used to be a really heavy chore that's like, oh God, I have to go do this. Now it's just like some nights it's a chore, but it's like, hey, not a big deal. I'm just gonna go get this done.
Yeah, great, great, great. There's less
You know?
resistance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not nearly as resistant. It's just something that I go and get done rather than being, oh, good Lord, I got to go cook. I don't know what I'm going to cook. It's just turns into more of a, what have I got around? What do I need to use up? How are we going to throw this together kind of a thing? And it's been fun that way.
Yeah. It's so good. This makes me so happy. More people coming over to the dark side of loving cooking is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So who would you
Absolutely.
recommend joyful cooking to, Chris?
I mean, the easy answer is pretty much anybody and everybody, but really in my mind, it's for people who don't think that they're good at cooking and who find cooking really, really hard. Because I think that the chances are good that they have an idea in their head that it has to be this really heavy, complex, difficult thing. And they've tried a few recipes, have had very limited success because they've run into terms that they didn't understand or didn't know how to do, or they watch, the Food Network and they're watching Tournament of Champions and watching all these crazy meals being prepared, and they're going, I could never do that. And
Yeah,
it's
so it
like,
feels out of reach.
it feels out of reach. And the fact is it isn't out of reach. And that's what joyful cooking really opened up to me, is that it isn't out of reach. It's something I can do. I may never call myself a chef. I don't see myself getting into, celebrity chef style cooking ever. It's
Right.
just not something that I won't say never. I don't see it happening, but maybe I'll retire like my dad and decide I want to get more chefy. I don't know. So I
Who
never say
knows? Yeah.
never, but at the same time, it became something that's like, oh yeah, I can do this.
Yeah,
And I can
I
have
can do
fun
this.
with this and I can turn out flavorful meals. I can have the nights where my wife goes, wow, this is really good. Nice job. There we go. Rather than her not saying anything because it's one more bland night of baked chicken breast that she's going,
And
oh
she's like,
God,
yeah,
I'll eat it, but because I didn't have to cook it, but I'm definitely not enjoying the meal.
yeah, great.
And
And
so
what
we've
about
had,
people?
go ahead.
I was just going to say, what about people that have like, dietary restrictions like you do?
I think it's absolutely amazing for that because I am not stuck into anything. Because, like, I mean, the other one I didn't really talk about, eggs are like a once a week thing that I can do. I can do like eggs cooked in something, like if it's a bread that has eggs in it, that doesn't cause me problems. But like I can't eat mayonnaise.
Right. Oh, really?
I
Even that little egg. Yeah, right.
it adds to that trigger load. So it's one of those, I didn't really grow up eating it, and I just, because of the eggs in it, I just have avoided it completely. And so it really has given me the freedom to, even looking at the initial frameworks that are like, it's what can I eat and what can I substitute. And I've always felt the freedom because you offered, oh, you could do this or this or this. I'm like, well, even if I don't do this or that, I could still do this instead, which is what I have in my fridge.
Yeah, great. So you have that ability to adjust. And then also, I guess that I don't know for you, but I know with my husband and he's got issues like there'll be things that he can tolerate for a while and then he'll go through a phase of actually, no, like we can't do that anymore. But it's like it's easy to adjust now.
Yeah, it's super easy to adjust. That was the case that, um, it was before this, but like beef was frequently a challenge for me. And it was like, but it was like now it's pretty easy to work around.
Yeah,
And
great.
been able to play with ideas of trying to make salmon burgers or make burgers out of ground pork or do different things, just coming up with different ideas of how do I work with this.
Yeah, and you can I guess you have that confidence. Yeah, I can. So, and if you do need to change your restrictions in the future, like you'll be
Yeah.
able to.
Yeah, I'll just adjust. If something's not making me feel good, then I'll take it out for a while and adjust around it, and then 6 months or so later I'll try adding a little bit back in and see what my response is.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. So
But
good.
I can add it lightly rather than like, oh, I've been having trouble with beef, so let's just have a steak for dinner. No, you know let's not do something stupid like that, but how can we sneak back into this a little bit,
Yeah, got it.
you
Yeah.
know and just see how it affects me, because I don't know how it works for your husband, but like I said, for me it's very much it's a trigger load, so I can like eat a
Yeah,
little
there's a
bit.
quantity, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a quantity thing. I can eat a little bit of a lot of things, but if I eat too much of any one thing, it will probably cause me problems.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
It's no, gosh, no. That's 4 days of misery, and you're still trying to go to work and try to get through your job, and you just feel awful, and I don't have a desk job where I get to sit at a desk all the time. It tends to be fairly busy, and I tend to be moving around a lot. I see my office to check email.
Right. Yeah. Great, Chris. So is there anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap up, Chris?
Um, Really, it's just been an incredible program. The mindset pieces, I mean, right from the get-go and the 21 day, the mindset pieces were probably one of the biggest things for me, and taking the idea of stealing with pride, some of that's crept over into other stuff. Like I teach yoga classes and I have mindset pieces at the start of my yoga classes that pick up on some of those ideas.
Oh, amazing. So you're spreading the word of
I'm
like,
I'm
yeah.
spreading it around because one of the things in yoga, and I'm teaching a lot of active older adults these days, and so one of the things I tell all of my students is that, look, you are the world expert on your body and what your body can and can't do.
Amazing.
And so you need to work with that, and you need to accept whatever those limitations are. If you can't do something, please don't do it. If it hurts, please don't do it, and so a lot of those ideas have crept out into other
It
things.
came from joyful cooking of being the world expert of your taste buds. So cool.
Yeah, exactly. I had a hobby that I really enjoy, but I kind of just hit a lull in it. And I started telling myself that, this is something that I get to go do, that I want to go do.
Not that you
And
have to, yeah.
that brought me right through the lull, rather than feeling like, oh, this is just one more thing I have to go do that's on my calendar that I got to get through. It became something, oh no, I want to go do that. That's something I
Yeah,
get
and
to
it
go do. Let's go
reconnected
have
you with the
fun.
desire. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
and so I've stolen with pride on a lot of that. I give you all credit for it, but it's absolutely, it's been something that has crept into other places, because I think that mindset is huge.
It is. Isn't that cool? Like that you can like come to a class to learn about cooking and then yes, of course, learn about cooking, but it impacts the ripple effect in the other areas of your life. Like you don't know where
Yeah.
things are going to lead you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so it's been an absolutely incredible time in joyful cooking, and yeah, I mostly enjoy cooking, and even like I said, the days that it's just something I've got to get done, it's not a big deal. It's just something I go and do, rather than
You've got easy options. Yeah.
I've got easy options and I can pretty simply walk in and go, what are we going to do? Well, what do we got? Let's throw it together.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
thanks, Chris. Appreciate you being on Joyful Eating. Thank you. So, if you want to be like Chris and discover the joy and freedom and ease that comes from cooking without recipes, then join Joyful Cooking. So, we enroll twice a year. So, to learn more, just check out the link in the show notes, or if you go to Stone Soup, and click on the Work With Me tab. You can check out the Joyful Cooking page there. Okay, have a beautiful week, and I'll catch you next week.